My parents left me at 4 months old like I was nothing, but now they're in court, demanding my grandfather's $3.4 million estate that he left entirely to me. Don't scroll. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family or dreamed of sweet revenge, this story is for you. Hit subscribe, like, and share, because this one's going to burn deep. I still remember the day my lawyer called. Arya, your parents filed a lawsuit. They want to challenge your grandfather's will. My hands went cold. Parents? The same ones who abandoned me at a church doorstep when I couldn't even crawl. The same people who never called, never sent a birthday card, never even asked if I was alive. Now they were suddenly family again, because of money. I looked around my quiet apartment, the one I built through sleepless nights and double shifts. My grandfather, the only person who ever believed in me, had left everything to me after he passed. His house, his land, his business shares, everything. He used to say, "One day they'll come back, Arya, but by then you'll know who you are." I never realized how right he was. Until that call. A week later, I saw them again, for the first time in 24 years. My mother's fake tears, my father's smug grin. They walked into the courtroom like they owned the place, whispering to their lawyer and shooting me pity looks, as if I was the villain. Their lawyer started speaking, painting them as grieving parents who only wanted fairness. My blood boiled. They talked about love, sacrifice, and regret, all lies. They didn't know the judge had something waiting in that file that would silence them forever. The courtroom went still when my lawyer stood up. "Your Honor," he said calmly, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. Mr. Harrison left behind a video message, addressed only to Arya. And that's when my mother's smile cracked. The judge pressed play, and the courtroom lights dimmed as my grandfather's voice filled the room. "If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. And if they're here, then I was right." His voice was calm, but every word hit like thunder. My mother's hands trembled. My father looked frozen. He continued, "I built everything from nothing. And when I needed my children most, they left me just like they left Arya. She was the only one who visited me when I was sick, the only one who stayed when everyone else disappeared. That's why my entire estate belongs to her." My mother suddenly stood up. "That's a lie." "He was confused," she shouted, her voice cracking. Everyone turned to look at her, some in shock, others in disgust. The judge ordered her to sit down, but my father leaned forward, smirking like he still had control. "Arya," he said softly, his tone dripping with fake kindness. "We were young. We made mistakes. Let's just split it. 50-50. It's still family money." Family. That word hit harder than any insult. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to look him straight in the eye. "You don't get to use that word," I said. "Not after leaving me in a box outside a church." The courtroom went silent. Even the judge's pen stopped moving. But just when I thought the truth was out, my father leaned toward his lawyer and whispered something. The man nodded, then smirked. "Your Honor," he said, "we have proof that Arya wasn't legally adopted, which means she might not even be the rightful heir." Gasps filled the room. My heart dropped. For a second, everything blurred. Had my grandfather known? Was this their trap all along? And then I saw it. Something on my father's wrist I hadn't noticed before. A gold watch. My grandfather's watch. The one he swore would never leave his home until he died. My hands clenched under the table. Because that watch wasn't just gold. It held a secret my father had no idea about. That gold watch was my grandfather's pride, and his hidden weapon. I remembered him once saying, "If anyone tries to steal what's not theirs, this little piece of gold will tell the truth." Back then, I thought he was just being poetic. But now, watching my father flaunt it in court like a trophy, I realized there was more. Much more. The judge was still reviewing the documents when I spoke up. "That watch," I said quietly. "Where did you get it?" My father froze for a split second, then forced a smirk. "It was my father's. He wanted me to have it." "Funny," I replied, "because the last time I saw that watch, it was locked in his office safe. And the police report said the house was broken into 2 days after he died." The courtroom gasped. Even my mother looked at him in disbelief. The judge frowned. "Mr. Harrison, is this true?" Was there a burglary? My father stammered. No, that's absurd. She's lying to cover up. But before he could finish, my lawyer stood up with a confident smile. Your Honor, if I may, that watch isn't just gold. It has a micro-engraved code on the back. One that leads to a sealed document your court already has in evidence. The bailiff handed the watch to the judge, who turned it over and squinted. There it was, tiny numbers etched along the rim. The judge entered them into his computer, and a file appeared on the screen labeled Supplementary Will, Confidential Addendum. My mother whispered, "What is that?" Her voice trembling. The judge began to read aloud. This addendum specifies that if anyone attempts to claim Arya's inheritance by deceit or force, their claim is nullified permanently, and all contested assets will instead be donated to charity. The color drained from my parents' faces. My father's lips moved, but no words came out. I looked straight at him. You should have left that watch where it belonged. The judge slammed his gavel. Case dismissed. The estate remains with Arya Harrison. But as my parents stood in stunned silence, my lawyer leaned toward me and whispered, Arya, we need to talk about something your grandfather didn't include in the will. My heart skipped. What do you mean? He looked uneasy. It's about the other property, the one no one knows exists. My breath caught. Other property? What other property? I whispered. My lawyer glanced at my parents, who were still frozen in humiliation, and said softly, Not here. Let's step outside. We left the courtroom and walked down the long marble hallway, my heels echoing against the floor. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of everything that had just happened. My parents tried to destroy me again, and somehow my grandfather had still protected me. When we reached the quiet lobby, my lawyer handed me a sealed brown envelope. Your grandfather kept this hidden from everyone, including me. He asked that it only be opened if your parents ever tried to challenge your inheritance. I tore open the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single old photograph, my grandfather standing beside a mansion I had never seen before. Behind it, a handwritten note said, Arya, when the world betrays you, go where the truth began. Coordinates, 41 Syud to Green N, 73.58 to W. My lawyer looked at me puzzled. Those coordinates lead to Connecticut, he said. But there's no record of any property under your grandfather's name there. My heart raced. Then he must have hidden it under another name. Just then, the courtroom doors burst open. My mother's heels clicked angrily as she stormed out, her eyes filled with rage. You think this is over, Arya? She hissed. You don't deserve a penny of what's his. That fortune belongs to us. I didn't flinch. I simply stared at her and said, If you really think that, then follow me. Let's see who knows grandfather better. Her face twisted in confusion. What do you mean? I smiled faintly. I'm going to those coordinates. Let's find out what he left buried. As I turned to leave, I caught my father's reflection in the glass door, whispering something to a man in a gray suit I didn't recognize. The man nodded, slipping something metallic into his pocket. For the first time since the trial started, a chill ran down my spine, because I realized my parents weren't done. They were following me. The road to Connecticut felt endless. Every mile carried a storm of emotions, betrayal, fear, curiosity, but above all, determination. My grandfather had left me a trail, and I wasn't stopping until I found out why. By the time I reached the location, it was past sunset. The air was cold, the sky dark except for the silver moonlight reflecting off a tall, rusted gate. Behind it stood the mansion from the photograph, covered in vines, yet untouched, like time had waited for me. I pushed open the gate and stepped inside. Dust danced in the air, but the furniture was spotless, as if someone had been caring for it. On the main wall, a massive portrait of my grandfather hung above a fireplace, and beneath it, a small lockbox with a golden key taped to the frame. The key had my name engraved on it. When I opened the box, I found two things, a USB drive and a letter. My hands trembled as I read the note. Arya, this house holds your real legacy, The drive contains ownership documents for my overseas investments and the tech company I never registered under my name. They're all yours, but there's more. I left proof of how your parents forged signatures, stole from accounts, and hid assets under fake trusts. If they ever come for you again, this evidence will end them. I gasped. It wasn't just wealth, it was power. Proof that everything they had was built on lies. Before I could process it, I heard footsteps. My father's voice echoed through the hall. "Arya, you shouldn't have come alone." He appeared in the doorway with that same man in the gray suit, the one from the courthouse. The man's hand rested on his coat pocket, where I knew something dangerous waited. But I stayed calm. "Looking for this?" I asked, holding up the USB drive. His eyes widened. "Give it to me, Arya! That's not yours!" "Oh, it's mine," I said, stepping back toward the portrait. "And it's already backed up to 5 servers across the country. If anything happens to me, the files go straight to the police." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. He turned to the man beside him. But the man slowly lowered his hand and walked away. "I'm not part of this," he muttered, leaving my father standing there defeated. My mother appeared moments later, tears streaking her makeup. "Please, Arya," she begged. "We have nothing left." I took a deep breath. You had me. You chose nothing. I turned and walked out of that mansion, leaving them behind, the same way they once left me. 3 weeks later, the headlines broke. Former Harrison couple arrested for forgery and fraud. The world finally saw their truth. And as I stood outside the mansion, my mansion now, watching the sun rise over the estate, I whispered, "Thank you, grandfather, for teaching me that revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it just needs silence and truth."